now we have our fabric stitched together and studded. You're probably like, Bea, how the hell do we get this on our head? Like, what? Do we just, like, add string and tie it? Like, what the hell do we do? Also, little thing, if you can't tell, my studs are not perfectly screwed in. But it's fine, because they're still screwed into a safe level. If yours are like mine, and you want to make sure they're like these two here that's screwed in a lot better, you can put a little glue. My screws were not going in straight, and I gave up. But now, we get to add our clasps. This is something that for this project will require sewing either by hand or by machine. Due to physical limitations that I happen to have, I will not be sewing by hand. I will instead be going over to my sewing machine in a moment. So I cannot give you tips on sewing by hand. Most of this tutorial for this portion will be for those of you that will use a machine like I will. If you plan to sew this by hand, I absolutely commend you. Just like put this on in the background while you sew and then come back. Now, time to sew. So I will see you guys over at my sewing table. Okay, so this is my sewing machine. If you don't, as I mentioned in the last little bit, if you do not have a sewing machine, you can easily do this next step by hand. But I obviously cannot sew by hand, so these tutorials will be a sewing machine based one. And I would recommend that if you would like to follow along like I will, you get a sewing machine like this. Personally, I recommend Brother machines. I use the CX7000. So what we're going to need for this next step is we're going to need, you can use D-rings or O-rings for this. I'm actually using split keychain rings like I would use an O-ring, so that way I can save my O-rings. You're going to need a clasp like this or a swivel clasp. If you do not have a swivel clasp, you can do what I do, which is you can put a clasp like this on a split keychain ring or a larger size jump ring. And then we're going to need a jump ring. So to assemble our DIY split clasp, we're going to take a pair of pliers and we're going to use that to open this jump ring like so. And now we're going to slide this clasp. I like to use bigger clasps for this. Your size of lobster clasp does not matter. But we're going to slide our lobster clasp onto that like I showed. Take your split keychain ring, O-ring, or large size jump ring, whatever you're using. Slide that onto the jump ring and then came off there. And then close the jump ring. Like so. And now you have basically a DIY swivel clasp that you can use just like you would use a swivel clasp. And now you're going to get to sew your clasp and your findings onto your actual headband. This is a really good time for those of you that would like to wear it to measure, to just make sure that your fabric can overlap in the back of your head. That way you make sure you have enough fabric that you can sew the clasps onto. So you're going to start by taking your D-ring, O-ring, or whatever, or a split ring, or large keychain, or jump ring, or whatever kind of ring you're using. Slide it onto the fabric, like this, and then take the fabric, pull it through, and then fold it over. Then, once you've folded it over, you should have it looking like this, and you should have this little D-ring here. What I like to do is I like to take a sewing pin and pin it in there until I sew it. That way, if I need to take a break for maybe my wrist hurts or something like that, I can easily take a break. So once you've done that, you've folded it over and pinned it. You've basically just make sure you can move it a bit, and then you're going to come to the other side. And we're going to take our DIY swivel clasp, or your swivel clasp if you're using a standard one. Slide the little ring part onto the fabric like so. Make sure to slide it on like this. Make sure to slide it on backwards. Take that and you can pin it again. And now once you've done that, I like to make sure I can put it on my head and pin it. Obviously, mine is a little big, so I'm going to take the pin out, and I'm actually going to clip just a little bit of this back half of this fabric off since this piece is a little long. And I'm just going to clip right to that. Whoop. You can either save that fabric piece or throw it out. Personally, for me, I'm probably just going to let it accumulate my scraps pile and then eventually throw it out. So now I'm going to make sure it'll fit, and it will. My hair got stuck on a sewing pin. If you have curly hair, be careful of that. So now we're just going to slide our large ring, whatever kind of ring you're using, back on. And now you don't have to pin it because we're going to put it in our machine. Make sure to slide your pin back in your pin cushion because, you know. Now we're going to put it on under our machine and sew. If you have a screw like I have here that's a little tricky to sew with, I'm actually going to unscrew it and remove that screw. And if you were wondering how to remove a screw, I'm going to show you right here how to remove we're going to basically just unscrew this and remove it, the spike, and remove it just because it's getting in the way. And we'll see if I can screw it back on at the end easily. I'm just going to take this screw and I'm going to put it off to the side with the screwdriver. So take your ring, slide it on, make sure and this is something where your stitches are going to be visible, but that's kind of okay. I mean, now you're going to take it, you're going to sew it here, and then you're going to put your foot down. I just use a standard stitch. I just use a standard stitch on these just because your stitch type really doesn't matter. Use what you like. And then boom, you've got the one side of your finding. You have your ring side sewn on. So now we get to do this and just make sure it fits nice and cute. And mine definitely does. So now you can take your pin out of the other side, hold it, put your pin back in your pin cushion. And now you can sew that. You might also have to remove a screw or two. Like, I'm going to need to repin this because I'm going to need to remove this screw. This is one of the reasons I don't use sew-on screws and would not recommend using them for this project. But we're also going to need to remove this screw as it's getting in our way. So we're just going to unscrew it like this. You may or may not have to do this. This is just up to however you made it and however you would like it to look. So this screws. So we're going to remove it and we're just going to put it with that other screw. And now we're going to refold the fabric for our ring. And now we're going to sew it over. Where's this? Another one. So my machine has actually managed to both knot itself and unthread itself within the course of making this project multiple times. So we're just gonna rethread the machine. I do have a video up from a couple weeks ago of how to thread a sewing machine if you're unaware. So now that my machine's rethreaded, we can basically sew this back again, put the foot down, and sew like so. Sew like so. And now pull out and cut, or use this little hook on your machine if you have it. And boom, you now have your clasp sewn on, and you have your spiked headband made of nothing more than a bunch of little metal spikes, some random metal facets, and denim fabric. You could also make this stretchy if you had an elastic, but I don't know how to sew elastic. So I'm gonna do the outro now. Okay, so this is what it should look like on. I think it looks really cute, and obviously it is very DIY, and look at that, you made a spiked headband. So thank you guys for watching, and I do hope you enjoyed this video as much as I enjoyed making it. If you liked this video, go ahead and hit the like button because that tells the YouTube algorithm that you like my content and you like content like this video. It also tells me that you want to see more DIY content if you're interested in fashion related content, including styling videos, lookbooks, me ranting about fashion, or DIY tutorials like this one, you can go ahead and hit subscribe. I make and release a new video every single Wednesday at 12 o'clock Eastern time. And if you're interested in finding me on other platforms, there's a link tree with all of my different platforms linked down below, including my TikToks, my Instagrams, and my Discord and my Substack, where you can find my writings. And if you're interested in emailing me, you can also email me, because there is an email linked in the description. I will respond, because I'm cool. I also respond to DMs on Instagram. And that's it for me. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I want to see you back here next Wednesday at 12 o'clock. Love ya, and hope you have a be-a-tastic day.